What is good, everybody? Welcome back to another video of Off the Bench. Like usual, I got Jimmy here. We got a special guest, Dylan. Dylan, tell everybody what you do, what you work on, and
Yeah,
that
my,
sort of
my
stuff.
name's my name's Dylan Backer. I'm friends with Sonny and Jimmy. I met these guys in college, and I see what they're doing with this podcast, so I figured I'd join them. I am a co-host of FIRESIDEKNICKS. I also run the Instagram page for them that has 22,000 followers, and I also write for the same company that we cover with them as an outlet, Empire Sports Media. You can check all of my articles on there at empiresportsmedia.com. I primarily cover the New York Knicks, but I also cover like the New York Giants and the New York Yankees as well.
Yes, sir, man. And that's kind of what this video is about. We have a huge Knicks episode coming up, and let's get straight into it. So, to your guys' expertise, you guys watch more Knicks ball than I have. So, how do you guys think the Knicks have looked so far, and what moves do you think they should be making forward if they win or lose in this series? Jimmy?
So, how do they look so far? Well, right now we're down in the series 3-2, right? And backs against the wall, facing elimination, and usually teams. I don't know the right statistic for it, but teams down statistically 3-1 don't usually come out of that series victorious. So we're already in a hole. But I will tell you this: this series has been about adjustments, and I can tell you that the Knicks have not been doing that, and they're now just starting to. They're just starting to now match Indiana's energy, and it might be too late. And what I mean by that is Rick Carlisle, honestly, one of the best coaches in the NBA. Throughout this series, he's made adjustments on how to guard Brunson, how to incorporate Miles Turner, how to get these guys involved. He's making adjustments, and you look on the Knicks and Tibbs, he hasn't done that. And Dylan, you know Knicks ball. Tibbs has an old philosophy, and he's very stubborn, and he shows loyalty to and holds loyalty probably a little bit too hard, too much. He holds it too much. For instance, for the Josh Hart, right? We've been calling for Josh Hart to take a step back and send him to the bench. Why is it now? It's the fourth, fifth game, and now we're starting. It's just the adjustments haven't been on time, and that's why I think the Knicks need a new voice, right? Whatever happens in this series, regardless, right? I just feel like the Knicks need to go ahead and have a new voice. I've been banging on the table for a guy like Mike Malone, right? Who's right now currently unemployed, but great coach for Denver, right? We all know that was out of the blue, right? And I think the Knicks need a new voice, a new direction. We have the players, we have the talent, and it took me a while. Dylan took me some convincing. We talked. We have the talent, we do. We need better structure, better coaching, and to get the best out of all these guys, because we're playing now guys like Landry Shamet, right? DeLon Wright. These guys are getting extensive minutes, and what are they doing with those minutes? They're actually making impact. You seen the last game, Dylan, Sonny. Last game, Landry Shamet had a bunch of impact plays. I think he had 5 points, but those defensive stops, those hustle plays, getting out in transition, playing transition, those that don't show up on the stat sheet, that matters. That impacts game. That impacts the game. And so you're seeing the Knicks now using their bench. Tibbs digging into his arsenal and using it. I just feel like it might be too late. And for me, my only thing for the Knicks this offseason, right, is to just get a new coach. I am finally on board with that. I think the Knicks have the talent. I think with Cat and Brunson, that is a duo. They just made All-NBA this year, man. You can even make the argument that Brunson should be first team. That's how good Brunson played this year, right? And another factor that we're not even OG's offensive production shocked everybody this season. There were stretches where OG was our best offensive player any given night. I remember a game he had in Denver. I think he went off for about 40 plus. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was like 40 plus. And he just lights out, just balled, right? If OG can get that level of consistency on the offensive end of the floor, the Knicks will be a very dangerous team. That's what I
Yeah.
have to say about it. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Dan. What
and
do
you know, as you were saying, it really comes down to coaching, in my opinion. I've had a lot of discussions with people about the roster construction, and it's not perfect. It's not. They don't have a lot of depth, and their starting five lacks. Their two best players are terrible defensively, so that's never gonna always work out. But the Knicks have the personnel they surrounded them with good defenders. I mean, Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Those are two top, premier defenders. Those are supposed to be like one of the deadliest wing pairings in the entire NBA, right? It's supposed to be the wing stop. And this postseason, they haven't been the wing stop. They have been, it's weird. I say that because OG was pretty good in Detroit, and he was pretty good against Boston. And Mikal Bridges, of course, had those two amazing clutch plays in Boston that pretty much won us the series inevitably, because it was a 2-0 advantage because of that. They ended up winning the series in 6, right? But when you look at the numbers, entering Game 5, so this was before the last game, before they ended up winning by like 20 plus. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, when they shared the floor, were a minus 88 in the playoffs, which is the lowest out of a two-man lineup in the entire playoffs out of anybody this season. So that's not exactly obviously plus minus can be ticky-tacky because, that's a two-man lineup, and they're obviously sharing the floor with Brunson and Towns a lot, and those guys are terrible defensively, so they have to cover up their flaw. But I blame Tom Thibodeau in a way for schemes and stuff as to why the defense is so bad. Because, obviously, like I said, I've already mentioned many times, Brunson and Towns are not good defenders. You're not expecting that. But, at the same time, the schemes are not helping it. Because Tom Thibodeau's scheme, he likes to, have his bigs play drop coverage. We know that already. But he also likes to, not put as much pressure on the ball handler, give him space to move around, go over screens, let them shoot. That's not going to work in today's NBA. Too many teams shoot the three ball at a high rate these days, and a team like the Pacers, for example, they play so fast, they play hard, they really like to get out there and just go and score as many points as they can, right? And the Knicks are one of those teams that play very slow. They're a very half-court set team. They don't exactly, they don't pass the ball a whole bunch either. They mostly run it through one guy. That's a problem in my opinion. And I think with the Knicks having as much talent as they have, I would argue that Tom Thibodeau has not maximized it. I would argue that Tom Thibodeau has been so reliant on guys like Jalen Brunson, which, don't get me wrong, I want Jalen Brunson taking as many shots as he can, especially in a situation like this where they need to win every game. I want him finishing the game with the most shots taken. But at the same time, when you have Karl-Anthony Towns out there and you have Mikal Bridges, two guys who are very, very good NBA players, and you're not really utilizing them as much, I blame Tom Thibodeau for it, because Tom Thibodeau isn't exactly setting up plays for Towns to get pick and pop threes. He's not setting up plays for Mikal Bridges to run through the offense. He's kind of just having Mikal sit in the corner, hoping to get open off the ball and make a corner three, even though he's been a below-average three-point shooter this year. And Karl-Anthony Towns as well, he's not getting enough plays drawn up for him to take threes. I understand as a 7-footer you want your bigs near the basket, but Karl-Anthony Towns is arguably the greatest three-point shooting big man we've ever seen, right? You want that guy shooting threes. You
Correct.
want him to be shooting them. He's a career 40% shooter from outside the arc. You want him involved in that. And when he's not taking enough threes, when I check the stat sheets after each game and I see that he took 2 3-point attempts in an entire game, that irks me. Because I know he is better than that. I know he's willing to shoot it. I know he's an aggressive scorer. I want him taking those threes. It's one of those things where I think at the end of the day, when the Knicks season wraps up, whether it is after Game 6, after a potential Game 7, or a loss in the NBA Finals, whatever it ends up being, the only way that I will say that we can't be exactly questioning Tom Thibodeau's job is if they win the title. If they win the title, I will eat all my criticisms about Thibodeau, and I will say, you know what, maybe he was the guy, maybe he ended up making the right adjustments at the right time. I felt like he made the adjustments, though, right now a little too late. I really wish he would have not waited until we went down 2-0 to first off change the starting five. I don't understand why it took that long when we had been clamoring for that pretty much since Mitchell Robinson came back. But I also didn't like how he waited till then to expand the bench. And then even when he did do that in Game 3, he went back in Game 4 and went back to his shallow rotation again. DeLon Wright played 1 minute in the second half of Game 4, and Landry Shamet only played 5 minutes in the second half of Game 4, after those guys had given quality minutes in the first half. So at the end of the day, I just want Tom Thibodeau to see who he's got out on the floor and play the guys that he thinks should be playing based on their performance, not based on this formula that he might have had devised before the game started. Because I don't understand why Josh Hart was logging 40 minutes off the bench. What was even the point of taking him out of... exactly. What was the point of taking him out of the starting lineup if he was going to play 40 minutes and turn the ball over 5 times? That is something I never understood.
Yeah, he's
It's
had a
something
rough
it took me.
series. I know that.
Exactly. He's had a very rough series, and don't get me wrong. I think Josh Hart has an impact. I think he can make the right plays. I think he provides the hustle, the energy that you want. You use that off the bench, though, and you also don't need it for 45 minutes. I'm sorry, but I don't need a guy who isn't going to be shooting the ball at all to be playing that many minutes. I don't. If Josh Hart's not going to put the ball in the basket, he can't be playing that long. He needs to be playing 25 to 30 minutes. Maybe a little more than that because he is a starting level player, but either way, not 45 minutes. I don't need to see him on the court that long. I need to see Mitchell Robinson out there more often, and I need more Deuce McBride. I think Deuce McBride has had a phenomenal series, and I think he really has made an impact each time he's come on the floor. I need to see him more often. And regardless of whether or not we do see more of that the rest of this postseason or not, regardless, if the Knicks end up fizzling out in the playoffs, right? If they lose to Indiana or they lose to Oklahoma City, they have 2 questions to answer, and one of them needs to have an answer. And it's going to be, do we trade Karl-Anthony Towns, or do we get rid of Tom Thibodeau? And the reason I say trade Karl-Anthony Towns is because he is the guy who can get you a superstar in return. If Giannis Antetokounmpo becomes available, we don't know yet for certain if he will be available, but the large assumption is that he will. If he becomes available, I would trade Cat for Giannis in a heartbeat. I would. I'm not over here clamoring to. Yeah,
I'll pack his bags for him.
I'm not even over here clamoring to trade guys yet because the season is not over as we're recording this. But at the same time, if they do end up fizzling out to the Pacers, changes need to be made. They have a window, yes, but you have to maximize that window. And if you're Leon Rose, you need to look at your personnel and you need to go, okay, what can I do to make this team better? What can I do to make them better and to, maximize the championship window for the next 3 to 4 years? Do I have to get rid of my center who's making $60 million, or do I need to get rid of the head coach who's been here for 5 to 6 years but can't maximize his talent? It's one of those decisions that can be very tough to make, but it's one that I think they need to evaluate. So there's going to be a lot to talk about with that, but I don't want to take up too much time on my points, so I'm going to pass it back off to you guys.
No, I saw a lot of your tweets and your videos that you were making, kind of criticizing Mikal Bridges and some of the shot selections he's had. Digging further into that, what's a player or someone you want to look out for tonight's game, Game 6?
Right. I'll go first on this since you directed the question.
Yeah.
My criticisms of Mikal, and before I go into who I want to see more of and what I want to see from certain guys, I need to talk about Mikal for a minute. Because
Go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
I need to talk about him for a minute because Mikal Bridges
Here
is
we
somebody.
Here we go.
This is somebody that I have really, when they traded for him, obviously I was not exactly pleased with the type of package we gave up. I mean, 5 first-round picks, a pick swap, a second-round pick, and an additional rotational player for Mikal Bridges is one hefty haul. That is a Giannis Antetokounmpo level haul, a Luka Doncic level haul. You know what I mean? It's one of those hauls that you really shouldn't have expected to get out of Mikal Bridges, but I guess the Knicks really wanted him that bad. Now, here's the thing. I think Mikal Bridges is a good player in his own regard. I do. He solid wing defender. He's 6'6". He's always available. He plays every single game. But I don't know if he fits in Tom Thibodeau's system, and that is exactly why I'm questioning Tom Thibodeau's job here. Because, like I said, he doesn't draw up many plays for Bridges. He mostly has him sit in the corner and kind of create for off-the-ball looks, even though the Knicks don't exactly pass the ball, so it's not something that you really should be doing. And also, Bridges' shot selection himself, when he does get the ball, it's a weird mix because his mid-range is he makes it. He does make that mid-range a lot. However,
it's solid.
It's a low percentage look, and it's something that oftentimes I feel like he settles for instead of taking it to the rack on certain guys. I understand there's the whole thing, like I just said, he doesn't miss games, so I understand, there's the whole he doesn't want to take contact because he doesn't want to miss games. I think that's a BS notion though, because I do think in retrospect here, I think he is someone that you should be seeing take it to the basket a lot more often. This is a guy who can create his own look. We've seen him do it in Brooklyn. We've even seen him do it in Phoenix, and we've even seen it a handful of times this season with New York. He can create his own look. I want to see him take it to the rack, though. You are 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan. You are going to be tough to guard downhill, so I don't understand why he doesn't do it. I know I had posted some college clips of him being really aggressive, and I know college and NBA is a whole different thing, and he was in college 8 years ago, so I know it was a very long time ago. But he has never been that kind of aggressive player in the NBA, and I feel like if he is, he could really take his game to another level. I feel like he's one of those guys who kind of holds himself back a little bit. I feel like he's someone that you really can look at and go, oh, that guy can be really good all around. You know, great inside, great mid-range, great three-point. But this season with New York, it's been solid mid-range, below average three-point shooting. And you never see him get to the line. You never ever see him get to the free throw line whatsoever, and that irks me because when you have a guy gifted with that much size, you should be taking advantage of that. And to go on to the next part of your question about who I really want to see tonight, kind of have a big game, you know, for Game 6. I think even just looking ahead to the rest of the series, speaking in retrospective to Knicks advance, the biggest X factor is going to be it's going to be all your supporting cast around Jalen Brunson. So everybody. There's not one specific guy that I can point to at this point because we all know that Jalen Brunson is somebody who the Knicks love to, you know, kind of rely on, especially Tom Thibodeau. And like I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again, I want Jalen Brunson to have the most shots. I do. That is your guy. That's your A1. That's your top guy.
100%.
But I also
100%.
want it. But there's going to be possessions where Brunson's double teamed and he's not going to have shots. There's going to be times where Brunson goes to the bench and needs a breather. That is where guys like Cat and Bridges and Anunoby, McBride, etc., that's where those guys need to step up. That is where you need to see those guys apply pressure on both ends. I thought in Game 5 they did a good job of that. I thought they made sure Halliburton wasn't getting his looks like he did in Game 4. I thought they made sure that the shooters weren't getting enough room either and were making it tough on them. They made them swing the ball around a lot and take a shot at the end of the shot clock, and that's the type of pressure I want to see from them. And I think if they do that on a more consistent basis, then they can go far. And not even just for this year, but beyond this year. I don't think the roster is really the problem. I think all in all, they have a depth issue, but I think the talent that they do have overall is very good. It's like top of the league, very good talent. And I think ultimately, if you maximize it with a different coach, maybe they can look better. Maybe I'd be wrong and they look terrible with a different coach, but at the end of the day, I'm still very undecided if Tibbs is someone that they can win a championship with. And I'll be saying that until I see them holding the Larry O'Brien.
You see it.
And if it's this season, then great. It's this season, and I'll eat all my words about Thibodeau. But until then, I have a lot to say about him, and that's what I got to say. I want to give Jimmy an opportunity to
And
jump on
sometimes it can be as simple as coaches running their tenure for the team. You know, every coach has a ceiling. Not every coach can take you to that finals, but
right.
we'll see how Tom Thibodeau does tonight. Game 6 is probably the most important game because it's on the road. If you guys can get past this game, I give you guys Game 7, and I give you guys the comeback and all that. What about you, Jimmy? What do you think? Who are you looking forward for tonight?
So for the first question, you know, talking about Mikal, right? I'm with Dylan. I mean, this guy, he's a prototypical. That's what you want in your wing. That's why everybody in the league, they're scouring for two-way players. Mikal is the definition of a two-way player, right? But
Right.
somewhere along the lines, right, he lost that in Brooklyn because Brooklyn didn't really need his defense. What they needed was his offense, right? And when you're exerting so much on the offensive end, the defense takes a back seat. And I think when Mikal was in Brooklyn, he developed that bad habit, right? There's a bunch of bad habits you can see throughout that Brooklyn team. The reason why we are New York, not Brooklyn. They're second, right? Dylan, you know that. And so I think he developed bad habits, and now he comes over to the Knicks. And what I noticed with Mikal is it's like he makes things harder for himself, right? You just mentioned his mid-range shot. The mid-range, the art of the mid-range shot was lost, and I think it's slowly starting to make a comeback slowly in the NBA, but it's still not a high percentage shot because we are in a three-point league, like you said. So when Mikal gets to the rack, I'd rather him go all the way to the rim and get fouled or
and
attempt the
interject on
layup.
that
My
point
goodness.
too, as you're alluding to, when you're 6'6"
Yeah.
and you're taking mid ranges, I feel like that's not using your size.
You're not. And not even that. It's not. He's fading away. So you're making yourself smaller. When you're fading away and you're shrinking your size. So and not even on open shots. I saw last game with the Pacers. You've seen this. Mikal is taking wide open threes and he is fading away in the corner. I've never seen that. I don't know if that's something he's done throughout his career. Dylan, I might have to go look. I don't know if there's a stat we could pull up or anything like. But it's like Mikal he's in love with a fadeaway. It's almost like he's programmed to get and fade away. And you're not gonna. That's a hard shot to make. Hard shot to make. So like you said, I just don't think he fits Thibodeau's scheme. And if he doesn't fit Thibodeau's scheme, who's lead? He's got to go, right? Either he's got to go or Tibbs got to go. One of those two for me, in my opinion. And then, you know, there's not one player that I'm looking at like we need them to, like Dylan's is the supporting cast. I've preached this, you know, my philosophy, depth is everything, right? We know Jalen Brunson's going to bring it every night. This guy is a playoff warrior. He's an assassin, right? You go look at his numbers in closeout games. Pretty sure he's averaging 30 plus, right? Last game, I think he had true shooting is at 80% true shooting. He's just this Jalen Brunson. I'm not worried about him. What I'm worried about is the Cats. What is OG gonna do on offense? What is Mikal gonna give me, right? What is Deuce McBride gonna give me off the bench when I need someone to come in for Brunson? The Brunsonless minutes are what's gonna win us this game. And Dylan, you know that. What are the Knicks gonna look like without Brunson on the court? Is there gonna be enough offensive creation for us to maybe maintain a lead or get us back into, because we can't fall behind early. We know Indiana's going to come out hot, and they're going to try to take us out early. It is up to the Knicks to be able to match their intensity and their depth to be able to play up to par with the Pacers' depth. That is the only chance we have of winning this game is the supporting cast, and I think Dylan did a good job nailing that on the head.
For sure, man, for sure. You guys definitely know your stuff. You've been watching and covering the Knicks for your whole lives. And making it to the Eastern Conference for your guys' first time is still an accomplishment. I just want to congratulate y'all on that. And this has been a great episode. We love having Dylan on. We're gonna have his brother on one day. We're gonna have Taylor on too, man. We're gonna have a lot of people on. But I wanted to make sure we did a Knicks episode just for Jimmy and Dylan because they definitely know their stuff. Go follow Dylan on all social medias. I'm going to link them in the bottom here. He's going to send it to me, and I'm going to link them. Go follow our TikTok. Jimmy made a TikTok today. We made Instagrams. We got those going. So we just appreciate it. We're using a new site for the first time today. So let us know how you guys mess with the site and stuff. And I got Knicks in 7, man. I think y'all going to come back. I really do. I believe now. Jimmy?
And yeah, obviously I'm not going to say this. I don't believe in my team. I do believe in my team. But side note, just wanted to say, Dylan, thank you seriously for coming on and
He's been a
supporting
huge
us.
help.
Appreciate y'all having
Been
me.
a huge help for us, and I appreciate it. You're the best, and you've given us advice on how to work around this podcast thing. So without you, man, we'd be lost. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping us out.
Yeah.
Any
Appreciate
closing
y'all having
words?
me on here. I don't have
course.
anything else to say other than just, I hope the Knicks do advance to the finals, but at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of discussions to have in the offseason, and it really will all depend on the outcomes of these next games coming up, and it also really depends on how these games go, because who knows? Maybe the Knicks win in slop fest, but if they end up winning these slop fests and you end up looking at the roster and you go, okay, well, I don't know if these pieces can work. Those are decisions that the FO is going to have to make. But that's really all I got to say. I don't have much to say other than thank you guys again for having me on here. I do appreciate it.
For sure, man. This was already my favorite episode we've done so far because we've had a guest, we had talk about the Knicks and stuff, and we'll see what happens today. It's in Indiana on the road, and let's hope the Knicks get it done for these boys. This has been Off the Bench. Just thank you for watching. Any closing words, Jimmy?
Like I said, keep supporting us, guys, and stay tuned. We have more to go. Off the bench.
Yes, sir.
All right.